What's going on, everybody? Greg here, and let's follow Caesar to do a collaboration review of 2014's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. We got a super awesome movie review of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the second movie of the trilogy for the third movie that's going to come out here in July. Very excited to do that. I have a special guest on my channel. He's a very awesome movie reviewer. To be honest, he's my favorite movie reviewer, so I'm like jazzed. I'm like starstruck to have this guy on my channel. I'm really excited. So, Anthony, Silverscreen Analysis, what's it about? What do you do?
Thanks for having me, man. It's awesome to be here. I'm excited to talk about this movie. We've been talking back and forth for many months about movies for a long time. I'm glad the schedule's lined up. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, you guys can check out the Silverscreen Analysis. I have a channel similar to this one. It's just all about movies. I'm a movie nerd like everybody else. So if you're interested, come by and check it out. You can catch me on Twitter at YourCinemaGuy. So yeah, let's get into this one.
The plot of this movie is a growing nation of genetically evolved apes led by Caesar is threatened by a group of human survivors of the devastating virus released on the world a decade earlier. This movie was directed by Matt Reeves and it stars Jason Clarke as Malcolm, Gary Oldman as Dreyfus, Kerry Russell as Ellie, and last but not least, the monkeys, or apes, Caesar and Koba. Now, this movie is a sequel to the first Planet of the Apes reboot movie, and generally, sequels aren't as good as the originals in most circumstances. But I think this movie is arguably one of the best sequels that's ever been made. The CGI is way better in this movie than it was in the first movie, like tremendously different, so you can definitely see how far we've evolved in the CGI world when it comes to these apes and the hair and the details and the wrinkles. Just everything that these monkeys have is way better in this movie than it was in the first movie. And the action of this movie is freaking awesome. In the first movie, it's a little bit slower. There's a lot of story building, there's a lot of character development. But in the second movie, we already know the characters. We already know who Caesar is. We already know who Koba is. We know the story of all these apes and what had happened, so we can just jump straight into action. Majority of this movie is action with some good story building, with some new good characters that were put into the movie. Overall, I think this movie is just awesome, and it's a great sequel, and it definitely outshines the first Planet of the Apes movie. Anthony, what do you think about this movie? What are some of your
completely agree
thoughts?
with you. I'd have to say this is definitely better than the first movie. First movie was great. This movie's great in a much different way. It's much more impactful. It's a lot more intense. You get that story angle of the humans needing to get the dam and the power generator back up and running, and you also have the parallel of Caesar and Koba and their inner struggle, and you get a good balance of both. And then, like you said, the war sequences were awesome. They're climactic. Seeing these apes riding the horses and just seeing how much they've evolved in 10 years is fantastic. The home that they live in, thought it was excellent, and it's well over 2 hours long, I'm pretty sure. And it was just a fast-paced movie with much better human performances than the first film, much more impactful ones. And like you said, we get more of Caesar, who is just excellent. He's much more mature. And then we get Koba into the mix, who is like a true antagonist to, in the first film, the human civilization was kind of the antagonist for Caesar. Now this one, he's got a true villain to go up against, and it just makes this movie so much more intense with all the stuff going on. And yeah, I thought it was excellent.
So I want to talk about the characters and the performances, starting with Jason Clarke, who played the character Malcolm. I think he was a really good character. The only problem is I don't really like some of the actions that he was taking, or not so much the actions, but how he was going about the actions. Because it starts off, you have the apes, they're in the forest, they're off minding their own business away from civilization, and then a group of some of the humans that are scavenging, they're walking through the forest and they run into two of the monkeys, and one of the characters, one of the humans, shoots one of the monkeys, one of the apes, and then all the apes come, and now it's just this big controversy of like, should we attack the humans, should we not attack the humans? And Caesar rides in with all the apes and he says, leave us alone. And Jason Clarke, he's kind of the protagonist of this movie. He's kind of the leader of the humans for this movie. And Caesar basically tells him, don't come back or we'll have to fight you. Leave us alone. Humans stay here. Apes stay in the forest. We don't want to even deal with you guys. And then Jason Clarke comes back and he basically disobeys everything Caesar had to say to him, and he just kind of like says, hey, you can trust me, but he has no evidence of why they should be able to trust him. He kind of just walks in and says, you should trust me, and then Caesar finally agrees, says bring no guns, and then he brings guns. You know what I mean? He doesn't like pay attention to anything Caesar has to say. So as much as I like his character and that he helps the apes, and he acted well. I just didn't really like a lot of the moves that he was taking, so for that, his character kind of like bummed me out. I didn't really like him throughout the movie like I wanted to like him. So what did you think about that character?
I would agree with that. His performance was pretty good. His character decision making was a little bit off. I thought his character was a little cliche kind of hero style, you know, like don't stand in front of the gun. I'll go stand in front of the gun. If you go up there, you're gonna get killed. I'm gonna go up there and stand in front of it. He's overly heroic at times. And honestly, in my opinion, I would have liked to have seen Jason Clarke and Gary Oldman's character reversed. I would have liked to have seen Gary Oldman play Jason Clarke's character. Thought he would have brought more maturity to it. Thought he would have maybe elevated the material a little more than Jason Clarke was unable to do. So that's pretty much my thoughts on his character. He was good. He served his parts, but it's kind of like Franco in the first movie. He didn't really stand out at all.
And with what you just said about Gary Oldman as Dreyfus, let's talk about the character Dreyfus. He's kind of like the war leader of the humans. He's the one who's in charge. He, is the one who's trying to reach out to the army or the, whatever, the special forces to try and get them to come help them. And he's kind of the one who's taking care of the business back home while Jason Clarke is off doing his heroic adventures. I have a lot that I want to say about him. I'm not going to carry on too much, but I want to say that I went throughout the movie liking his character and then disliking his character. I didn't like him at first when he was like, we need to attack the monkeys, what are they going to do to us, But then I felt bad when he finally gets a way to charge up his iPad or his tablet, and then there's a picture of him and his wife and his kids, and they have perished from, the past 10 years of what happened to humanity. And so I actually had a soft spot for him. But then quickly, I didn't like him because he wanted to attack Caesar, and we're all supposed to like Caesar. So I kept going back and forth with his performance, or with his character, but his performance, though, was really good. I thought he acted really, really good. I liked him a lot as an actor in this movie. What do you think about that character?
Completely agree. I really liked his performance. I didn't think his character was fleshed out enough. I kind of think what they gave us of his personality and kind of the leader he was of this human faction has kind of been the resistance of trying to stay alive, and I just felt like he would have been a little bit more open to listening. He just felt so tunnel minded that I don't think with that tunnel vision and that just that refusing to any kind of reason outside of what your thoughts were, he just refused to believe that the apes were good and that the apes were able to help them utilize them. He just used them as a complete threat. I thought it felt kind of forced. I think it was more, I think they sacrificed his character for the sake of where they wanted the story to go. But like you said, I totally agree. His performance definitely was excellent, and it's kind of why I love Gary Oldman. So I would have liked to have seen him as Jason Clarke's character and just had a lot more stuff to do in this movie.
I first saw him, Gary Oldman, as the actor back in the sitcom Friends. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but anybody who has seen Friends, he's the war veteran actor who spits on Joey's face when they're acting, called the spit acting or something, and they go back and forth spitting on each other's face. I thought that's hilarious. I just wanted to say that for the Friends fans out there like me. But let's talk about, the two awesome characters of the movie, which aren't even humans. They are apes. So we got Caesar and we got Koba. I want to talk about them together as a collective character because they are the exact opposites of each other. One is light and one is dark. But you got Caesar, he's basically on the good side. He trusts the humans because he had that love for James Franco in the first movie, and he doesn't want to go attack them. He wants to give them a chance. He trusts them. He gives them the benefit of the doubt. But then you have on the complete other side of the spectrum, you have Koba. He completely was tortured and experimented on by the humans, and he absolutely hates the humans. He wants nothing to do with them. He doesn't believe that there's any good in any human, and he wants to attack them before the humans come and attack the apes. So you have them on the complete different scales. One's good, one's completely evil, and I know they're not real, but their performances were better than any other performances in the movie. What do you think about those two characters?
I agree. Once again, they were the best performances in the movie. I think they should have been. I mean, this is this is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's about the apes. They're the characters that are the meat of it. And just like they created with Caesar, they created Koba, like I said, the true villain. And yeah, they were awesome. I really like how they developed. They both had completely different interactions with humans throughout their growing days. So they got two completely opposing views on things. And they both are alpha males, and there's only one spot for one alpha male. And I thought this story really just dictated that very well. It's like Koba was kind of manipulative, and he seeked out who inside the group that he could, kind of just take, manipulate over to kind of get them to do what he wants them to do, and it's what ends up starting the whole war, and it was excellent. I really like the way they developed it.
And I don't think we can have this movie without talking about Koba horseback with 2 machine guns in his hand going through fire in slow motion. Was that like not one of the best scenes of like any awesome movie? I mean, I freaking loved that part. What did you think about that part?
Completely agree. I mean, War of the Planet of the Apes is going to have to do something really good to kind of overpass that as the iconic scene from this whole entire trilogy.
Definitely. But with this movie being as amazing as Anthony and I believe this movie is, it also has a little bit of gripes. So let's get into that. My biggest gripe, which is pretty much my only gripe to be honest, is just the fact that they didn't bring James Franco back into this movie. I said in our first review, which you can check out on Anthony's channel, that I wasn't really a fan of James Franco. I didn't think he acted that well. But I was a little bummed out that he didn't have a cameo at all. Like, they showed him a little bit once Caesar goes back into his old house where he used to live. There's a video camera, and Caesar opens it up and he sees, an old video of when he was younger with James Franco, which is a very touching moment. But I still would have liked to see that, maybe somewhere Franco was still alive, or maybe he has an on-screen death very early on or something, just to bring him back, just to kind of link those 2 movies up. I wasn't really a fan of how they just completely dropped everybody from the first cast and brought in the brand new cast, which they did a good job, but I would have liked to have a little bit more of the first movie incorporated into the second movie. That's pretty much my only gripe of this one. Other than that, I think it's a great movie. Anthony, what are some of your gripes, dude?
I really pretty much only have 2. Like the first one we kind of brushed on. I would have liked Gary Oldman in this a little bit more. I thought he was that wiser, older, veteran leader of the humans, and I thought he could have done a lot more in this. I mean, he can create some impactful characters when he wants to and when the material lets him, and you had him at your disposal, and I think he could have really had some impactful scenes between him and Caesar. They could have made some great moments, and we didn't get to see it. We got a lot of Jason Clarke and Caesar, which was okay, but I don't think it would have been the same result as Oldman and Caesar and Oldman and Koba and all these, I was sort of like that. And I think my other gripe was it relates to what you said. I mean, you didn't really like the movie because it kind of just completely disbanded all the characters from the first movie. And it's like, okay, I'm okay if they're going to do that because this 10 years is kind of a human apocalypse, so it happens. I felt them going back to the house that he grew up in was a little bit, a little bit melodramatic for a movie that was very gritty and very real. I think that after 10 years and he's still able to go in there and they just make it back to that house, it just felt out of place. It felt a little bit forced, but it didn't hinder the overall enjoyment of the movie by any means.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I completely agree. So let's get into our overall thoughts of this movie. And my overall thoughts is, like I said, this is like one of the best sequels I've ever seen in a movie. It definitely crushes the first movie, hands down. It's not even on par with the first movie. It's way past par. It's a birdie. It's an eagle. It's just so good. And one thing that I just love that this movie had was the amount of actual English dialogue that the apes have now. 10 years later, they all learn English and they all can talk and they know sign language and they can communicate, but it's not just sign language or just body language to where we can understand what the apes are saying. They actually speak English, and I'm so glad they threw that in this movie because it was so amazing whenever you would hear Caesar speak and whenever you would hear Koba speak. I just love the English dialect that they had in this movie. So, what was your overall thoughts about this movie, Anthony?
My overall thoughts are simple. I really love this movie. I think for a reboot like Rise of the Planet of the Apes was to come out and be great is an achievement on its own. To come out with a sequel of a reboot, to only extend it and make it to even higher levels of quality, just shows a lot of thought into where you guys are going with it and the ambition and the creativity and just the organization of everything. It definitely took things up to the next stage. It is an independent film on its own. If you don't have the first one or the new one coming out, you can watch this movie on its own and it is great. You get enough of a backdrop, you get enough of a climax, and you got to give them up because they didn't have action sequences in this one. They had war sequences. Those were awesome, intense battles. They did not hold back. Special effects were excellent. The lighting and the camera work was all fantastic, and I just love this movie.
Great, man. Thank you for your insight on that. So now we're going to get into what we would rate 2014's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I give this one a 4.5 out of 5. And And I think that's pretty fair because, like I said, I have a few problems with it. Again, I wish they kind of would have included the first movie somewhat a little bit more into the second movie. I didn't like that they dropped the cast. Jason Clarke's character was awesome, but he did a few things that I wouldn't have personally done if I was going up against a giant clan of apes who also have like weapons. So I wouldn't have definitely done some of the moves that he made. And Dreyfus, I definitely wish he was a little bit more in the movie, or his character was a little better. So it wasn't a perfect movie, but it was almost perfect for me. It's one that I love to watch over and over again. It's very awesome. So Anthony, what would you rate this movie?
I'd have to agree with you, 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was a couple steps away from being a perfect movie, but it is still a fantastic movie. Like this, a couple little nitpicks in there, but yeah, it was fantastic. So, you can sit down and watch it anytime.
Definitely, man. So thank you. I'm so happy to have you on my channel, dude. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. Like I said, dude, I kind of look up to you. You're like my favorite movie reviewer, so it's really cool that we got to do this collaboration. So thank you for being on my channel. And where can everybody find you again?
First of all, man, that's very humbling. I definitely appreciate it. You can find me on Silverscreen Analysis over on YouTube. Check it out. Type Silverscreen in the search bar. You'll see my ugly mug pop up somewhere. Come check it out. Tons of movie reviews. You can find me on Twitter at YourCinemaGuy. And yeah, once again, I had a great time. Really looking forward to War of the Planet of the Apes. It's one of my top, most anticipated movies of the summer. It's coming out so soon, and I'm just excited for it.
And again, go over to Anthony's channel. We reviewed the first Planet of the Apes movie together, so go watch that one, then hop over to my channel. If you're watching this one first, well, you already pretty much watched the whole review while I'm saying this, but, go check out his channel, watch the very first one that we did. That was an awesome review as well. And Anthony, again, thanks for being on here, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man. It's a great time. I can't wait to the next one.
Thank you, everybody, for watching this review. It was a fun time to do it. Please do me a favor, go down below, comment, like, and share this video if you could. I'd appreciate that. Also, if you haven't subscribed already, please go down below, subscribe to my channel if you like the content that I'm putting out, and also hit that little bell so you can get notified when I have a new video for you. Thanks, everybody, as always, for watching, and remember to watch a movie, man.